Hello and welcome to the F1 section of the Robbos Gobcast. We will be having a few discussions about the 2 weeks worth of news we have. But first, we'll be quickly promoting basically all our social medias. They're all linked in the description down below. There's Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram.
Got everything down there.
Yeah, all sorts. Mark's signed up to all sorts of social medias just to have a go.
Just
basically.
one quick thing as well is we are setting up a Discord channel.
Discord. Yeah,
the link down below to the Discord we've got doesn't work. I found that out this morning. So we are creating a new Discord server, which will have for everyone that we do for everything. So we're going to have sections for Formula One, sections for wrestling, sections for football in general, Reading, NFL as well. And we're just going to bring it in and we're going to do loads of different sections so everyone can have a bit of what they want and what they want to listen to moving forward. But that will come hopefully at some point this week. Maybe next week, but we'll go. We'll see. We'll see.
But yeah. So in the description down below, there'll also be mine, Mark's, and Connor's personal Twitters. I'm trying to think what else is there. Oh, I think my Twitch is going to be linked in there down below now.
Yeah, once you send me the...
I've sent it. I was going to send it after this. I just remembered.
Yeah, you will, because I need to add it into the YouTube thing so it goes on all of them. So hurry up and send it.
Oh, I keep forgetting. Yeah,
you do.
Yeah. But so that'll be in there as well. Please come and give me a follow as I'm trying to get affiliated on Twitch. That'd mean a lot. But yeah, so now let's move on to our 2 weeks worth of news as we skipped last week because we did predictions.
Hold on, before we go into anything, I need to kick your ass on stream on Twitch, by the way.
Yeah, we'll get that done at some point.
No, and I mean, I will destroy you at FIFA. I will destroy you at F1, and I will destroy you at anything that you can cry about. And I will do it live on Twitch, where it will be. I think we might need to put a not safe for work notice to it because it will be like watching porn of how much I'll be destroying you. It would be like watching a Mia Khalifa video. We're 2 minutes in and we've gone controversial. Fuck it. It's going to be watching like what's the name? Mia Khalifa.
Yeah, we have 2 weeks worth of news as we did our predictions last week, and last week there was quite dull news. We are swiftly moving on again. First topic we have is we're going to do 2 weeks worth of our favourite contract. Is Lewis Hamilton.
Is this still going?
Yeah.
Yeah, we wait. Apparently, okay. So last week, Hamilton apparently had a deal fairly set. Mercedes tweeted out about a pen, which I don't know if they're just teasing to be, dicks or just trying to be funny. But yeah. Also, and then this week, Toto Wolff come out and said there's an issue with the contract, and basically. Came in and gave me a cup of tea.
And we're back.
We're back. My dog was being an absolute knobhead, so we're back. So yeah, so now Toto Wolff has just come out and said that there are legal issues that are holding back Hamilton's contracts. I'm not sure what they are, but yeah, there's been apparently lots of arguments on Zoom calls, a bit like us with the Gobcast.
Brilliant.
Been lots of arguments. Saying that about
certain predictions made by certain humans.
But no,
hold on. Before we get into certain predictions by certain humans, don't you mean your utter shit predictions that you did? I mean, I've seen some Wally Wombats of decisions, and I've gone through. And you, by the way, I still need you to send me the prediction list. But I went through some of them, and I went, okay. Either Connor is completely and utterly mad, which I'm saying he is, or he is a genius. But the genius side is not coming out, and I just think you're utterly mad and just gone for an absolutely mad one, to be honest.
I think he's just trying to be controversial, isn't he?
It's gonna work. It's
not gonna work. You predicted Perez to come 8th, and Tsunoda to come 18th.
No.
Let's move on. Let's move on. No, that's last week's video. We'll move on before we have another argument. But yeah, so Toto Wolff has disclaimed that apparently he's had lots of shouting arguments with lawyers over Zoom calls, and that basically it's not.
9.
He's Austrian, so it doesn't work.
It does because it's a German company, so I'm going with it. I don't know what no is in German and Austrian.
Nine is no.
Well, then it's the same thing then.
No, because they speak different languages.
All right, you carry on talking. I'm going to translate and find out what
I think it's different languages anyway. I'm not sure.
We're going to find out in a minute.
But he's confident of him getting a deal by Bahrain. So basically, he's saying that he might not have a contract for testing, but he will for the actual race. So Lewis might not have a deal confirmed till like.
I think he will get a deal because I think, like I said in previous episodes, they both need to reach an agreement, and obviously, but it's just until they can both agree, like Hamilton agrees with the money on the contract and with the bonuses on the contract and stuff like that, and I think Mercedes are in a big. I think if they don't get it done by Bahrain, then they're sort of screwed.
Hold on, yeah, he does. All people in Austria speak German. The dialect of German spoken in Austria. So I am right. Nine. There you go. So I was right.
Yeah, apparently.
I googled.
Apparently, they're sending curveballs to the lawyers due to something in the contract somewhere.
Okay, so if we're going to read into it and we're going to pick this apart, basically what's happening is there are certain things that Mercedes or someone is putting into the contract that Hamilton is not happy about. Either it's
things that Lewis or things
or the other way around. Yeah. So let's go on to Mercedes side. What could they put into a contract that the royalties to the merchandise could be where he won't be getting as much? Could be championship bonuses. Championship bonuses.
I don't think it'll be anything. I don't think it'll be anything money. I think it will be something.
Do you think that they've put in, and I'm just making this up on the spot, this is not something I've read or anything, so don't use me as a source, do you think that, I don't know whether you can do this in F1, so please let me know if you can, is if you trigger a certain amount of wins, that automatically extends his contract for another year, like in football sometimes?
No, you can do the opposite. Because I remember Christian Horner detailed this is in Max's contract, that if they're not in the top 3 of the constructors, or Max isn't in the top 3 of the drivers, I think, that at the halfway point of the season, Max is free to talk to any teams he wants.
But can you add it in as the other way around, though?
Not that I've ever seen or heard of.
Because it just seems there seems to be something that's being very petty about this.
I think Lewis just wants it to be a one and done thing, where Mercedes will probably want a longer term.
Do you think Mercedes want it to be like a 3-year deal where they get the new 2022 engine as well and have that for maybe a year or two, just to see as well how Russell progresses at Williams before they throw him in a dip end? Or do you think that Lewis wants maybe a 1-year deal and they're going, no, we will only do this if it's 2, and Lewis is going, no, I just want a 1 year and see how, and do like a rolling yearly contract to see if he wants to carry on.
That's what Lewis not. Well, Lewis last
This makes no sense then, because Lewis, and I agree with you, Lewis does this yearly. So what is it? Because he's asking for more money?
I think he just can't be bothered anymore. I think partly he just can't be bothered.
I think it's either Mercedes are offering him too little money, or he's asking for too much money.
Do you think?
Okay. I think it will be. I don't think it'll be money. I think it's more likely to be length of contract, and or bonuses that aren't money related. So things like certain promises that Mercedes can't uphold.
Do you think as well at the same time? Do you think as well that Lewis is when you say can't be bothered, do you think he's just got all the charity stuff that he's doing, all the Black Lives Matter stuff that he's going on with? Do you think that I think he's always said that if he really doesn't want to do it, he won't do it. I think he does want to do it, but I think as well, this is the point I was getting to, because I forgot what I was going to say until I just said it then, do you think that before, when he signed his previous contract, that he was the highest paid sportsman in the world? Do you think now, because of what's happened since then with Patrick Mahomes in the next 2 years going to become that, earning $500 million in his contract with Kansas City? Or do you think with LeBron James's contract at the Lakers, how he's progressed to much more than what he was at Cleveland? Do you think that that's a factor as well, where he's gone, right, I want to go out as the highest paid sportsman, and the only way I'm going to do that is Kansas City will have it in 2 years' time. So I think it's 2 or 3 years. I think he's in his 4-year rookie contract. So it's in 2 years' time that $500 million comes in. Is it 2 years?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Because this is his 3rd year. So it'd be either next year. It'd be next year.
Next year will be his last year on his rookie contract.
Yeah, it'd be his last year. Then, do you think that that's played a part as well, where he's gone? Because most of the time since he's been at Mercedes, he's been in and around as the most highest expensive person. And for me, being a 7-time world champion, a face of Formula One, a face of the Black Lives Matter movement, the face of someone that is going to be turning into
the
a
face
sir.
of sports in the UK, to be honest, I think.
I think he's the face of sports worldwide as well. If you talk Formula One around the world now, the first person they're going to go to is Michael Schumacher, and then they're going to go Lewis Hamilton.
I think they go Lewis Hamilton before Schumacher now.
They might do. To me, I'm just going by certain things, but I think that is going to play a factor in it as well.
I think, because from what I've seen, heard, and read, Lewis was planning, before COVID hit, he was planning on taking 2021 as a sabbatical.
Okay.
And taking a year out to just, I think, progress with his life. But he's kind of seen the COVID breaks as that sabbatical almost, if you get what I mean, because he kind of got to delay his start season for 3 months, and then you don't know what's going to happen with this season. But if you know Lewis, you know it'll be last minute, and Mercedes go, have this, and then he'll sign a 1-year deal, and then they'll go through the whole thing next year. But I don't know. I think Lewis wants to be in F1, but I don't know. But he doesn't want. I don't think he wants to be in F1 as much as he used to be. Wanted to be in F1.
If he only signs a 1-year deal in this month or next month, then come a year's time, he's not going to sign.
He won't be back. No. If it's a he might just sign a 2-year deal to do 1 year and retire.
He's been very active on Instagram recently as well in the past 5 days.
He's been going off with it. He's been going back with Brady on socials as well.
He's very much going around on that, and he's just been on Instagram stories with him in the gym again. So
maybe
has he taken Mercedes?
One of the biggest talking points about this is with Lewis is he's not in Europe. So to hash out a deal, he's not based in Europe currently. He's living in the States.
He's never had Mercedes in it, but at the moment he has plant-based, love animals, constantly searching for my purpose, for my adventure, open-mindedness and positivity. I love the power of the universe. That's his bio on Instagram.
He's never really had like F1 driver.
No, but he for me, in my opinion, he can do what he wants. He's earned the right to play a little bit of hardball because of the 7-time world champion and because of it. So people criticizing him for that need to really look at themselves of that as well at the same time and think about you guys couldn't do what he does, so just fucking leave him. That's about it.
But I think Lewis, the whole thing with Lewis will be is he needs the right deal for Lewis Hamilton to stay. He needs the right deal for him, not the right deal for all parties.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So but let's try and move on from Lewis Hamilton, as that's all we seem to talk about recently, because he still hasn't signed in contract. Jenson Button is back, one of everyone's favourite British drivers. Sort of good segue because him and Lewis were teammates for 3 years. 10, 11, and 12 at McLaren. That's the first driver pairing that I ever really supported, was those two. So I was only about 6, 7, 8 when that was a pairing.
Yeah, that's when I first started getting into it. Was around when Jenson Button won his first. When he won his first title, that's when I started watching.
That was with the Brawn in 2009. Yeah,
That's when I
that's
started
an
getting into it.
iconic childhood car, that with chrome.
That was such a good
McLaren.
car.
Such a nice car. But he is back as a senior advisor at Williams. So he's kind of taking, if you've watched Drive to Survive, you know about Dr. Helmut Marko, who sort of does the same thing with Red Bull. He's the one who's part of him and Horner, who just shunned Albon off to DTM to get Perez in, who's just turned 31. So happy birthday, Checo. On the day we've recorded this, it's his 31st birthday. So Jenson's back. I'm expecting to see him push through Aitken into and other young drivers like Dan Tickton who are in that program.
So going off that, I did a little bit of research about what was going on, and it was Williams was his first F1 car that he first got into.
2000,
in 2000. So he did 17 races in during his time with Williams, 0 wins, 0 poles, 0 fastest lap, 0 podiums, but got 12 points and finished 8th, where his only year. And
remember, this is in that old point scoring
system,
where you only got points up to 6th place.
So the quotes that I found that what he was saying was he's really enjoyed getting back into F1, seeing the change over the last few years. So I felt the perfect moment to rejoin Williams, a team that gave me so many opportunities when I started in F1. They gave me the drive. They nurtured me through the years, through that year, and it was really very special that year for me as well. One of the biggest talking points when I read through it all was this. When he goes, I'll be working with the current drivers and I'll be working with the academy drivers in terms of driving the current car. He goes, driving the current car, probably a no. So it's looking more like he's coming on to help develop the car, but he's more there to help develop the drivers, to get them up to grips with F1 quicker than maybe than in the past. But if we think about the overview of Williams, do you think, and I think you were right in what you were saying, Josh, a few weeks ago, when you said if Frank Williams and
Claire Williams
were still around, would these positions happen? And you were right, absolutely not. This new company's come in and gone, right, there's enough pissing around at the back. That's enough looking like the joke of the team.
Independent.
Yeah, try and be independent, trying to be the team that we don't want to be that team that everyone loves. Just like, Williams. At least they tried. You don't want the wooden spoon award. They want to be a team that are going to be challenging in the future and make their car more competitive. And that's what we want in Formula One. We don't want to see Mercedes dominate every single track, every single time. We want to see them put up a fight. We want to see different winners. We want to see a close championship, a close constructors where it goes to the last race. And with the steps with hiring the former McLaren CEO as well, Williams have as well. So it just smells like Williams are really pushing the next step and really going back to, we need to challenge. We need to prove that we are going to be up there with Mercedes, even though we're going to be using their engine and different compartment and different aspects of their car. We can develop the way that we used to do it and put them together to produce a car that's going to challenge them and go, right, try and beat us. And that's what I feel like Williams had needed for the past few years, but never done it. I think they've relied too much on their history and their heritage too much instead of really thinking about where to go. And it also did work because then Frank and Claire couldn't carry on anymore because of the money and with the nostalgia and everything. So they had to. And these guys are going, we ain't doing this. We ain't making the same mistakes. So in my opinion, I think this is a massive step moving forward for them.
I also don't think this would have happened in the past because with F1 history here, there's a massive contract debacle. If you haven't seen it, go onto YouTube, you can see about it. Jenson Button has a whole issue with when he's at BAR and Williams in like 2004, 2005, 2006 time, I think, where he basically signed contracts with both of them. He signed a contract with BAR for 2005, but then wanted to go to Williams. Ended up staying with BAR, which then became Honda in 2006. But at the start of that season, he signed a contract with Williams, go to Williams for 2006. or 2007. But then BAR were competitive, so he didn't want to go to Williams, so he fell out with Frank Williams, to put it in short, to buy himself out of that Williams contract to stay at BAR.
Mm-hmm.
So I think under the old regime, this wouldn't have happened because I don't remember it being, because I remember the relationship got a bit frosty. I don't know how it ever, I'm not sure how that ended, to be honest, with like his relationship with the Williams family. So you never know. Maybe this is a bit of like, oh, they've gone and now I can come back because obviously the person who didn't want me here has now left.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that's the Williams point, I think.
I think Williams are aiming to do what McLaren's done. I think McLaren were down there, and over the past few years, they've sort of built themselves back up, and and now you've got last season with Sainz and Norris, and then you've got this season, and through last season, you could see that they were becoming more competitive in every race. And I think Williams are at the stage that McLaren were at maybe 3 seasons ago, where they're starting to improve things behind the scenes, and then in a few years that will start to show on the track, and then Williams will be able to become more competitive, and they can become the team they were back in, like when you said like Jenson Button and that was there and stuff.
Yeah, it's going to be a slow period, and this links onto the fact that they've also just re-signed Roy Nissini as their test and reserve driver. Roy Nissini, whose father also drove in F1, whose dad was his father, who was, to put it bluntly, very fucking slow, but had lots of backing. Roy Nissini has the same backing. He's probably not as slow as his dad, to be fair. He's got lots of backing. I think he's Hungarian. Let me just double check. He's Israeli, sorry. I think he's Israeli.
Scooby-Doo.
Yeah,
That's got to be one of the first F1 drivers from Israel.
No, his dad was also Israeli, but he drove at the Hungarian Grand
Obviously,
Prix,
apart from his dad. But...
So yeah, him and his father both. There'll be 2 only Israeli drivers, I think, in F1. They bring some good backing, which is some extra funds Williams can do with, obviously. So obviously links to the fact that Williams is trying to move forwards. This includes Latifi money, Nissini money. I don't know how you say his name. It brings some decent money, and it's good for Williams to finally sort of be not competitive, because they're not competitive. They're still quite slow.
I think you can see that they're really trying to put the effort in to get back to where they
were.
And it's showing. They've brought him in as the test driver. They've brought Jenson back in. They've sort of signed a good deal with Mercedes to use components of their car, which I think the engine, I think they're using the gearbox. I think they're using
anything that is allowed to be moved between teams is allowed. Anything that FIA deems to be legal to move across.
I think that shows that behind the scenes they're putting in a lot of work. And like I said a few minutes ago, in coming years, possible months, it's going to show on the track, and it's going to show that they can be the team they were.
So now let's move on to...
Yeah, so while you were talking, I Googled how many Israeli racing drivers there have been. The father and son, if the son makes it, will be the second ever Israeli. Alon Day is the only one outside of F1 that did NASCAR and IndyCar. That was another Israeli, but there are no other Israeli, according to Wikipedia, other Israeli drivers to ever compete in Formula One.
Yeah, so now let's move on to everyone's favourite heat magnet. Nikita Mazapin, Sir Mazapin, Russian oligarch son. Just continuing to get lots of heat on Twitter. Hassan seemed to kind of... They put out a tweet about him in F2 last year, trying to almost... get the broomstick, sweep it under the carpet. That's all good. Yeah, it didn't work. They got ratioed about 5 times, and yeah, but they're not going to get rid of him. I'm just going to say this now. Mazapin will be in that seat next year.
Oh,
See, this is the thing that I don't understand, and I'm probably going to get a lot of trouble for this. So expect probably me to get cancelled. Is I understand what he did was wrong, and I get that we don't want that type of person in an F1 car. But does there get to a point where you go, what you're doing just not going to fucking work?
It's not going to happen. It's not
going.
I need to pick my wording here, because otherwise I will get in big trouble.
Think wisely.
Big brain. I was going to say it's not pointless, but it's not going to change anything.
The only way this situation, and I'm going to try and help you out instead of you getting cancelled, I will. So the only way the situation is going to change is if F1 step in. So people go into Haas and go into them, no, you can't do this. Stop tweeting about him. We want more Mick Schumacher content. We want ratioed, whatever that means these days, and all of this and all of that. Then people are tweeting about that. But there gets to a point where you're directing your issues at the wrong people. Because if monies was distributed fairly and everyone had the same income and everything like that, or F1 go, okay, you could take away Nikita Mazepin if you really want to, and we will supplement that money with the money that you would have gotten from the owner, but then you would get less this or do something like that. It gets to a point where you've got to go, right, Haas have just gone, we need money, and the only way we're going to build a car for the future is with that money. Is Nikita Mazepin in the wrong for what he did? 1,000,000%. I don't ever wish that on any person. I have a daughter, and if anyone did that to my daughter, and if anyone knows the new head coach of the Detroit Lions, when he said, we're going to bite your kneecaps off, I would bite their kneecaps off. And 100%, no one should ever do that to a woman. It's one of the most disgusting things you can ever do. And there should never be a but at the end of this. But you lot are pointing it at the wrong direction. This direction of hatred needs to go to F1, needs to go to the FIA, needs to go to them types of people. It needs Formula One teams to go, right, this isn't right. There needs to be someone with bollocks in there, in F1, that it turns from selfish into thinking about the sport in general, to a point where it's not going to work. Let's compare it to other sports, right? So he groped and did things with that, and then something else happened with Adam Johnson as well in the Premier League. Got sacked the day after the reports come out. No matter if he was found guilty or not, he was sacked the next day. And he was, let's be fair, one of the very, very good players in the Premier League. Let's not knock his talent. He was very good and did very well for Manchester City. And then you've got other sports as well. You've got the different subject, but in the UFC, on the weekend, there was meant to be a fight, an undercard for Conor McGregor, but you have a bracelet on. He went outside, cut his bracelet off, gave it to someone, put a bag in his hotel. Not only did he put a suspicious bag in his hotel room, he climbed across 4 balconies to get to the room to put the bag in there. Sacked instantly. So there gets to a point where Dana White earns so much less than what the F1 and the F1 teams are going to earn, but he does that for the integrity of the sport. So instead of directing your shit towards the Haas, think about it and go to the FIA, in my opinion.
I think, like you said about, I think Josh said it, Mazepin, he's not going to lose his seat for this coming season. And I heard...
He won't ever lose that seat as long as it's pumping money in.
I heard, I think it was Mark said about the F1 supplementing that money, which, would work and stuff, but it's the fact that
you're not going to.
If Mazepin,
no way are they going to.
If Mazepin leaves, his dad leaves. And I think, it's his father. And if his dad leaves, then that leaves Haas in a shitload of trouble because they're gonna. I think the father has 50% of funding. I think So,
Yeah, but what the FIA, so what Mark's suggesting is basically the FIA buy him out of his ownership, buy Mazapin out of the seat. But that means the FIA, but then the FIA can't really do that because then it's a bit unfair because, they own the team.
Yeah.
So, but what? So the only way this works is that the FIA buy that percentage and go, we will hold on to this percentage, but as soon as as soon as we get a reasonable offer from anybody who will offer that money to go into that seat, we will take that offer. So they could end up being in to reference it to football, a Bolton or a Bury situation or a Wigan situation where they get shit owners who will put loads of money in, then suddenly pull the plug and then they're in the shit. So it won't happen because the Mazapin family is a stable set of income.
It is definitely. It is, yeah. And it's
So
like Mark said, that the only way this is now going to get not resolved, but the way that something is going to happen about it, the way that Haas aren't going to have all the crap direct to them is if FIA step in and go, hold on a minute, we should be taking action here. We should be doing something towards it.
yeah, it's just not going to happen, sadly, is it?
No.
So
I'm looking around here, and while you guys were talking, I'm trying to find talk of how much money Nikita Mazepin's dad is pumping into Haas. And I can't see anywhere where it tells me an actual financial figure of how much he's pumping in.
they probably won't officially release it.
No, but people will always have a round idea. Websites will always find a round figure of how much they think or how much.
But if it's the thing is, if it's an ownership deal, then it's completely subjective of how much he wants to put in.
All I heard was that it was 50% of the funding. That's all. And
I don't know how much this fucking funding is.
If it happened to any sport team in the world, whether it happened to Green Bay Packers or it happened to Reading, then losing 50% of your funding, that's absolutely massive. And if it affects how you do in that next season, then again that's absolutely massive.
Let me go on to. I know his dad's called Dimitri. That's all I know.
Okay, so here we go. According to some reports, Haas, since the Russian billionaire has injected a $20 million into the American team for next year, with the option for the same amount in 2022.
Yeah, I've just seen that.
And predicting that this is a first step of the sellout by Genie Haas. They're predicted because if he didn't put that 20 million in, then he wouldn't. Then Haas would have gone out of business, which is very interesting. It was said around the beginning of December, 20 million is going in to Haas.
Yeah, and considering they've had 2 accident-prone drivers, the amount of money they've probably had to spend on front wings. I mean, replacing Grosjean's car in general. Because you've got to remember that Grosjean's car got blown into smithereens, and they had to replace that car basically within a week.
I was watching
a bit of funding would have, a bit of extra money would have gone a long way for them there.
I was watching Drive to Survive, and it's not really relevant to now, but it's back to the 20. I think the one I was watching was
last year.
Was the 2019 or 18? And
19, where he goes to the bond. He keeps going on about how Gene has to pump in his money.
Yeah,
he's not going to do that if they run the car.
The fact is that if Haas keep having crashes, if Haas keep having car failures, if they keep having problems with the car, then that's more money that the owners have to pump into the business to then give Haas the opportunity to fix that car and get back out on the track a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks later. So it's all down to how much money he's willing to pump into the business. Because you've got Mazapin, who he can be a good driver, and then again he can play bumper cars. So you've got to think of, is he going to cost the business a lot?
Is he going to cost the business more than what his dad's going to put in?
Okay, so
exactly.
Another topic that I've just seen, because I saw this article, I was reading it while you guys were talking. Latifi, according to some people as well, they're saying he wouldn't be in F1 for all his money, but
no, he wouldn't. His dad's a very rich man.
Yeah. So according to this, Nikita, I keep saying Nikita. Latifi,
his dad was like 40 million, isn't it?
30 million euros, along with him through sponsorship alone, which I can understand why Williams and Hart. I can understand why they're doing what they're doing because of money and because there's no help for them moving forward. But it has to get to a point where the F1, FIA have to step in and have to do something. Even if
there's no good reasoning for them to.
But do they turn it into a suspension slash? Okay, so let's think about other sports. That's the only way I'm going to think about this and logically come up with an explanation. Right. So if you look at other sports, you look at Premier League. If you do something derogatory on social media, you can get a 6-game ban. Right? If you do so, 5-6 game ban. Like Cavani was meant to be getting a 5 or 6 game ban. You look at certain things you can say in the press, you get a fine or you get sent to the touchline if you're a manager. Why don't the FIA go, well, you can't get rid of him, but what we can do is because of what he's done on social media and stuff like that, he gets a 5-race ban and a fine.
Because the sponsors can say we won't put our sponsorship on the car.
It has to be put into the contracts.
No,
has to be put into somewhere.
Because sponsors won't do it. You're saying because it's like, so let's say Science is probably the nicest, or let's say Checo, he brings more money. Checo is probably one of the nicest blokes going in F1 as well. So Science, but let's say Checo, who brings lots of money in, somehow put something derogatory on social media. He's bringing in 15, 16 million pounds of sponsorship. Who's been following him for the last decade in F1, basically. So now Checo's got a 6-race ban. Those sponsors are going to go, I don't want to be in the car for 6 races if Checo's not in the car. They just lose 16 million quid.
Yeah, but wouldn't that sponsorship at the same time still carry over to the guy that's taken over from him?
No, because sponsors follow drivers. Sponsors, you can get sponsors for teams, like Cognizant for Aston Martin. So if you look at Checo Perez, every car that he drives has always had Claro on it, which is a Mexican brand. Mm-hmm. Big brands in F1. If you would see it on his Sauber car, the McLaren car, the Force India, and the Racing Point. You'll see it on the Red Bull next year. They bring lots of money for him, and they are a Checo Perez sponsor. They're not a Red Bull sponsor now. They are a sponsorship with Checo Perez.
Mm-hmm. I get that,
Perez
but there's
not in the car. They're not going to pay that money for it.
I get that, but there has to get to a point where you go, okay, you bring the money, but the person that you're sponsoring is completely and utterly fucked up, so you have to deal with the consequence of that.
No, because that's not the brand's fault at the end of the day.
I'm not saying it's the brand's fault, but if you're branding a driver instead of a team...
But then you're punishing a brand for something that's not their fault.
No, but then it's punishing the driver, because then he's going to get an absolute shit taken from the sponsors for going, what the fuck have you done? Why have you put us in this situation for us to be suffering like this? Why have you done this? And then they're going to get kicked up the arse and done it, where if there's no punishment whatsoever. It's like we're going back to children. It's like my daughter. If she runs around and does crazy shit and I just leave her to it, she's just going to do that all the time. If you don't every so often tell her off, put her on the naughty step, give her a fucking beating, no, don't do that, or anything like that, tell them off or anything like that, they're just going to absolutely run wild. So why would you not do the same to a fucking adult? Where if they're doing that has to get to a point where FIA need to take action, and they need to do it in a way that every other sport's doing to make it reasonable. And it needs to get to a point where sponsors, when they come in, they have to agree if they could have just backed the driver, that if the driver does something wrong and they get banned or they get suspended or something happens, that you'll still have to do your sponsorship and it still has to move forward. It's one of those deals that has to happen. It's one of those that it's not, and I know what you're going to say, it's not been like that before. They may not do it again. I don't give a shit what they've done before. This is a prime example of what needs to be changed and what needs to happen for this sport to move forward and grow better. And if they're not going to do that, then all I can say is more people like Stroll that are going to bring in the money, more people like Latifi, and more people like Mazapin are going to come into the sport and overtake people that probably rightly deserve to be in a car more on driving ability and then money ability, and they're going to miss out just purely on that, and that is going to hurt the sport, and it's going to put more people away from viewing it. It's going to take more people away from buying merchandise, and it's going to piss a lot more sponsors off that they're not good. That if you start taking people away from screens and start taking people away from buying merchandise, no one's going to know who your sponsors are. No one's going to know who you are and what you do. So it has to get to a point where it has to be overall agreed that the money, it has to be done with or without that driver.
Because F1's always been a money sport. That's the thing.
Yeah, I know that, but it has to get to a point where you need to.
They're not going to change 60 years worth of.
It's not changing 60 years. It's if your driver is a twat on the internet or is being a twat, he gets punished for being a twat.
But now you're bringing in paid drivers because you're mentioning Stroll and Latifi, who've never done anything wrong. But you're putting them in the same breath as Mazepin, which is unfair because just because they've got.
At the same time, has Stroll proven his point in a car to be in there?
I think Stroll's fast enough to be in F1. Yes. I think Stroll's fast enough to be in
F1. Was he purely bought in just because of that?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, but if you look at it, if that's how a team's got to survive, it's got at the end of the day, money makes the world go round.
Money makes the world go round. But at the same point, if your driver is doing stuff like that, I'm not saying about driver sponsorship and doing stuff like that. What I'm saying is there needs to be a disciplinary, or there needs to be something done by the FIA themselves, a bit like what the Premier League do, a bit like what the NFL do, a bit like what every other sport I know that has a governing body that actually punishes people and looks after their drivers. This is the only sport I know that doesn't. The NFL, if you get tested and do stuff, no. The NFL brings sponsors in for that team. If a certain, like Tom Brady has generated over $60 million for Tampa Bay, which they've never had before because of him. Yes, but if he gets suspended, they will still get that money because of it.
But they sponsor the team because of Brady.
No. They sponsor him. He is the main attraction for them to do it. They're not sponsoring the team. They couldn't give two shits about the team. They know Brady's in Tampa Bay. They know the Glazers, who are the owners of Tampa Bay, are gonna generate a shit ton of money from that. And they're gonna go, okay, then if Tom Brady wears this top, I want it to be on there. And they know if he fucks up with someone, or Rob Gronkowski goes an absolute mental one, which we all know he will. When he wins, he just goes on a massive bender for a month. We all know that, but they still pay it. It needs to get to a point where you're punishing really good drivers, but you're allowing the ones with money in. And it needs to be a more sport that needs to be overlooked. And I don't care about the history. Okay, history is history, and history is there for a reason, and the history is always there to be repeated and always there to make better. The history of it has, if you look at certain drivers that have made it, shouldn't have, because of certain ones that should have been. So it gets to a point where the FIA need to govern their fucking sport and actually look after their sport to a point where it's safer for other drivers, but at the same time, it's fairer for every fucking one. That's the one thing that needs to happen, and that's the one thing they're not doing.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, the FIA are there to make money. Their aim isn't there to make.
They could be there as much as they want, but they're a governing body of a sport, and every governing body of a sport has a disciplinary. And I don't care what they've done before.
They're always going to choose money, is what I'm saying. And the thing
then someone needs to fucking come in and sort it out, because you can't keep doing this, because this is going to take more people. If Mazepin carries on driving and no action is taken and no one knows what the action is taken, you're going to drive people away from the sport easily. It's doing it already. Look at what's happening on Twitter. Okay, that post there, one post on there, that post that they did for Mazapin got 2,400 likes. One of the comments in there got nearly 10,000 comments saying ratio by Mick Schumacher, right?
Yeah.
For me, that just goes to show that no matter what Mazepin does now, because of everything that's gone on, he hasn't been properly suspended. He hasn't been done by the FIA, and nothing's being done. So the only way this is going to go moving forward is if the FIA come in and come up with a disciplinary. It took Vettel, Grosjean, and another, I can't remember who the other one driver was, to put the halo on. It didn't even, the own people that own the sport are not even looking after them. And that's the worry I have for this sport. The really madly worry I have for F1 is the governing body are not looking after. The NFL are doing it. The Premier League are doing it. The NBA are doing it. The WWE are doing it. Everyone else is doing it, apart from F1. And that's why they are stuck. They are the Williams at the moment. They are the Williams of what goes. They are too reliant on their past and people praising about their past than they are worried about the future. That's it. That's the simple fact of Formula One at the moment. And I know I've been going on a rant and I know people are sick and tired of it. But this is the one thing that really, really fucking bugs me is they're not doing anything. I couldn't give a crap if some team... So then if a team's pulling out because of money, you lot step in and fucking help them. Because they're not going out because of their poor driving. They're going out because of a driver that touched someone up that shouldn't have done it. So then that's up to you to look after your team. You're meant to look after the people that come into your sport, not just rely on them to do it. It's like Mercedes. They relied on themselves to get to where they are. They haven't relied on injection of money to get where they are. They've relied on their own ability. Well, Lewis didn't bring that much finances.
Because they had money before. Lewis has brought in a lot of sponsorships with him because he's Lewis Hamilton. Think of Tommy Hilfiger, Bose, all these. But before that, they still, before Lewis was even there, they had Schumacher who brought in money. They had Petronas who brought in loads of money. And without that sponsorship, they would have just been...
When Hamilton first joined, there wasn't them sponsorship from Hilfiger. It's since he's been at the level he's at now, and that's the thing. When he first came in, Mercedes.
No, but they have Petronas still. The biggest sponsor. Mercedes only joined F1 because they had this big Malaysian company giving them sponsorship money. Petronas. Williams have now got it because the TP brings Lavazza. Haas will probably have a sponsorship, a Russian sponsorship on it. BWT sponsoring Racing Point and any sponsorship that Lawrence Stroll wants to put on the car that he owns because he has money. Aston Martin is basically a sponsorship because he owns Aston Martin, basically. Red Bull sponsor their own F1 team with £100 million a year just because they can. It's like, the whole thing is, they won't get rid of him because he has the money and the FIA don't want, and the FIA are running on, they want to run on a profit. And if that means Mazepin's on the grid, Mazepin will be on the grid for as long as his dad wants him to be. The same with Stroll, same with Latifi. The whole reason is only a stat with 2 drivers on the current grid who are not from rich families, Ocon and Lewis, is because they have good talent and could get sponsors because of their talent. Lewis got there, he got McLaren rookie deal, and Ocon was fucking fast in junior categories, and his dad worked loads of jobs. Same with Lewis, his dad worked 3 jobs. But the rest of the grid, they're made up of posh boys with lots of money from their dad. And I know they're quick, but without their parents' funding, mum, dad, uncle, grandparent, for all I care, they're not on the grid otherwise.
No, I completely agree with what you're saying. I'm not saying you're wrong.
Money is the only reason.
Yeah, no. We're not saying we're not saying that you're not wrong. We know you're right. What we're saying is what we think that the FIA needs to do for the future to not only help them as a brand, but help them grow and still make profit in the future. It's the only way they're going to be able to do it.
But
because
the point
if they
I'm trying to make is that they won't.
No, I know they won't. But we're just having an open discussion of what we think should happen. And this has also helped us out to make the podcast longer because we only had like four stuff to talk about. Anyway, it's also helped us talk a little bit longer and go over. But we know that it's not going to happen. But it's good to have a discussion like we're doing, like what they should be doing, of how to do it moving forward. And that's the one thing I feel like, especially on this podcast, compared to any others as well. Any others are very, very good, and we respect all the other F1 podcasts. But if you look at any other sport podcast, especially one of them, they just say one thing and go back on their thing 5 minutes later, and they suck everyone's ass to try and get where they want. So for us, we will have an open discussion, have a debate. Like Josh doesn't agree with me, I don't agree with Josh. I let Josh talk, and then Josh lets me talk, and then we have a so with Connor as well. We have an open discussion, and that's what I think. That's what I think they need to do. I think you're right.
The only issue with the FIA is what happens is the only thing that happens with the FIA is they can give Mazepin a super license because he's earned it. He's earned it because you have to have 40. You earn 40 points in your junior categories across 3 years. You are then graduated to super license, or you've done a certain amount of miles in an F1 car. You get your license. The issue is, at that point, as soon as you hand someone the super license, that means they can be in F1, and it's not in the FIA's control anymore. It's the issue. It's down to the team to register them and go, this is our man, he's in our car. And FIA can't say no because he's registered with them. It's like being registered in a Premier League squad. But the only difference is with that is there is a set suspension system, which there isn't in F1 at the moment. Yes, they need to bring it in, but then in a certain way, there'll be characters who won't then be able to compete in F1 because of what they're like Mazepin. But then it means a team like Haas can't keep the lights on.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
So it's a double-edged. I know, I understand, but it's like it's one of those double-edged sword type of things, where yes, it makes sense for public relations and PR and politics, but it doesn't. It's not right for the team and the general well-being of the team, the staff, paying the finances, because there'll be people at that team who, if Mazepin wasn't there, they'd be out of work in a year's time. And because of the Mazepin money, they've now signed the Concord agreement saying they'll be there to 2025. Every F1 team on the grid has to now be there till 2025. And Haas is only there because Mazepin's in the car. Williams is only there because Latifi's in the car bringing Lavazza and Safina Foods, which is like now the main sponsor of the Williams. Is you'll see Lavazza plastered everywhere and Safina Foods plastered everywhere. Racing Point was only able to keep the lights going because Lawrence Stroll bought it out. VWT was on the car. That's the only reason these certain teams could keep going. Braun was a one and done because Ross Braun bought it for £1 and sold it for so much more because he was a genius. He is a genius. He's an F1 genius. He's like the Guardiola of F1, Ross Braun. And Mercedes came in with their Petronas money, and it took them a couple of years, but then they went 2014, regulation is changing, bam, put all the Petronas money into that. We've got a car for the next 6 years that is going to win.
I agree with you. I completely agree with you. And I can exactly see where you're coming from. It's just I'm thinking to keep the fans on side and not doing the way what they're doing to try and do that. I get what you're saying. I completely understand what you're saying, but at the same time, I don't agree with what they're doing. That's my opinion. But we want to hear what you guys think as well down below in the comments. Let us know what you think. What would you do if you were in charge of F1? And let us know what you would do on Twitter, Instagram, wherever you decide to have a go at me for the shit I say.
I run a poll. I might set up a poll on the Twitter, maybe.
Go for it. Tweet out. We'll start tweeting a lot more on the F1 it's very soon. We're just trying to work out what to tweet.
Basically, because it's off season.
It's fuck all. Anyway, before we get into anything, let's finish on a couple of different things. Anyone saw the Aston Martin versus Mercedes Twitter interaction today?
I've seen a bit of it. I've been on school all day, so I haven't had a chance to.
Yeah, it was sort of interesting. But
it was more entertaining than it was anything else.
Yeah.
It was more entertaining. But I know there's one more topic you want to discuss about before we finish.
It's just dropping on my phone, so if I can quickly load the Google Doc.
No, that's fine. The last topic we were talking about is Charles Leclerc being tested positive for COVID. And Lando Norris has also been tested positive as well in the past few weeks.
Toto Wolff did as well.
In January as well. I was going to have a rant about this, but I think I did most of my rants in the last bit. But I'm going to have a moan. Okay, so expect me to say, what do the drivers expect when they decide to go on holiday during a pandemic and go to Dubai and decide, oh, let's go without any masks and walk around and do shit? That's a great idea. Marvelous. During a pandemic, which people are dying from every single day, thousands upon millions of people a day.
I think Charles is at home. I think he just got his.
No. He was tested positive while he was on holiday in Dubai.
Was he?
I've seen on social media, and I saw Philip Schofield and Holly this morning, and they were speaking to a social media influencer. And
how old do you sound saying I was watching this morning with Philip Schofield and Holla Willabooby?
No, it was on Instagram, and I was looking, and they were like, while you're out there living your best life, there's people back here in the country when the government has said we have to stick as one and get through this. You're out there. Yes, you've got the money. Yes, you can do that. But realistically, you should be thinking about the people here, the people that are working, the people that are suffering, the people that have got family members, the people that have died. And it's just, should you be taking that option, like Leclerc, to go out to Dubai? And
I think
by all means, if you choose to, that's your option. If you have the money, if you can pay for the flights, if you can afford to live out there for a month, or if it's a week or 2 weeks, then yeah, by all means, if you choose to, do. But you've got to think about how people are going to view you after you've been out there. And
yeah, I think the only point I'm going to make is with Lando and Charles is that, especially Charles, one doesn't live in the UK anyway. He's not UK based.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Italy.
Yeah.
And Lando never came back to the UK. He was in Abu Dhabi and then went to Dubai straight afterwards. So he never came back. And he, part of his, part of him being quite lucky with his job is that he didn't have to come back to the UK to keep earning his money, because, his season's finished. He's still being paid. And so he could go straight to Dubai, but to go on his summer holidays or whatever it is, his break, it's like, if Lewis now tested positive now, it's not because he's being greedy, because he's not in the UK.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about UK. The COVID is not just happening in the UK. It's happening all over the world, no matter where it is. So you're still putting the lives at risk of doctors and people that are look after you doing it.
Yeah, but it's because the rules are different per country.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. But at the same time, they've got to have a bit of fucking savvy about themselves and think about it logically and do it. And I don't think they do. I think it was very much a selfish decision. And for me, I feel like we shouldn't be giving them sympathy for that, for it. They're lucky enough to do what they're doing. There's people in the UK over here and around the world that are suffering from it. People will still try and struggle to find work because of it. You've got NHS workers that are overworked, hospitals being overrun because of the COVID, and then you get people going to Dubai and then coming home from it. So there needs to get to a point where we need to stop feeling sorry for those people that go on holiday and get it and then come back. It's like, well, fucking serves you right, doesn't it? Know that this pandemic's going on.
I don't know. I think about not being simple. I think it's one of those where it's wrong place, wrong time. Because yes, obviously, pandemic, you shouldn't be not wearing masks or whatever. But if the rules are set that you don't have to wear a mask, at that point, yes, obviously it's your fault for still not wearing one, but you've done what you've been advised to do. And if it's saying you can do what you want, then at the end of the day, you can do what you want.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. But you just need to have a bit of savvy about yourself as well, I feel like.
Yeah, I know that, but I don't know. And with Toto Wolff, it was like he just got his at home in Austria.
Mm.
I
You could
know,
just get it from anywhere.
that could just him going to the shops and getting it. That's how unlucky you can be.
I think it's a hard topic to speak on it, to make comments on, because I could catch COVID from going out for a run.
Yeah.
Like, if I stop to take a break and some dog walker walks past me and they're asymptomatic, I can catch it.
Yeah.
And even if you're in Dubai, where the cases are low, you don't have to wear a mask, you can still do everyday activities. There's still a chance that someone coming in from a foreign country, if it's Leclerc, and even Lando coming in from Abu Dhabi, even that, Dubai, the people that run the city and the people that run the country, they're risking there being an outbreak by letting people from these countries into their country.
It's because it was on the UK corridor list, wasn't it? Where you're allowed to go here and stuff.
It was, but if you think about it, I think it's like when this pandemic first started, it was like France, Italy, Spain. They have some of like the worst rates. So why are Dubai letting people from France in? And
I'm sorry for laughing, and I don't mean to laugh, but I just got a text message halfway through this. I'm not going to say who it's from, but someone just asked me to go. They live in the same house as me, so I'm not going out in multiple houses. Live in the same house as me, because I've got to fuck it. He doesn't listen to my podcast anyway. My brother went out for a walk, and he goes out for a really long walk to get fresh air, and he's got to Beach Lane near us, and he got really desperate. He needed a poo, so he had to come and ask me to go pick him up. He goes, I'm going to shit myself if someone doesn't pick me up. So my partner's got to pick him up. Anyway, I found that really entertaining when I was listening. I'm not going to lie.
See, this is what happens. Serious conversation happening.
It does. I'm really bad at that. And my headphones just died as well. So one of them anyway. So
it's like this is not on. It's a topic of COVID, and we were speaking about COVID. But Dubai and UAE, they're risking their country. They're risking the cities in their country by letting people in, because all it takes is one person to have the virus. They spread it to another person. They spread it to 5 people, and then you've got major cases, not major like the UK or the States, but you've got cases on your hand that you have to deal with.
Yeah, it's hard because obviously we're not qualified to tell people what to do, are we? Realistically,
yeah, of course, definitely, yeah. And
I am fucking stay at home. If you go out, wear a mask, wash your hands. Not fucking difficult, you useless twats. Dumb.
It's like
how to insult everyone. Welcome to my tutorial.
if you have the money, if you have the time, if you're still getting paid from spending 3 weeks in Dubai, then that's your option. Like, go ahead and do it. But you've got to think of
I completely agree with you, but I completely agree with both of what you're saying. And I think you're both right in both of what you say. But I think we need to also. I think one of the good things, not the good thing, but one of the things that we found out during COVID is there's always going to be people around for you guys to talk to. We know it's a struggle for some people to go and see family members. I know people who haven't seen their daughter for over a year. I've seen family members that haven't seen each other for a year because of this pandemic. For me, as a, I think I've gone. Hold on, continue recording. Can you still hear me?
Yeah. Okay,
I can't hear all of you, which could be fun. But so yeah, so for me, it's going to be as I was saying. We know that it is a struggle. We know people are struggling. We know everything's going wrong in the world. But I think one thing we can come out and say is the one thing that's happened is it's brought all of us together a lot more. I wouldn't have done this podcast if it wasn't for COVID. I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for COVID. Because I was bored, I decided to piss people off on the internet or piss people off, so I did this podcast. So yeah, I think that's the best way to end it there, don't you think, Josh?
Yeah, I was going to say we'll end it there. So thank you for listening to the Robbos Gobcast, the F1 section of it. There's been many a argument and a rant in this one. Mark flames in the little teaser on Twitter and stuff. Be a nice little clip for Mark to use on Twitter. So,
I can hear you now. I couldn't hear what you were saying. Sorry. I
was saying that Mark can now use flames in the thumbnail again, and you have a nice little teaser because we were just basically arguing. I
don't really edit that much, do I? Oh, I quite like that.
You have to do a
do you
little
like the flames in the thumbnail?
It's good because it helped, excitement.
It looked good, didn't it? I thought it looked quite
good.
good.
So, my wonderful predictions.
Yeah, thank you for watching the Robbos Gobcast this week. If there is no news next week, there is a little idea which I have come up with in my head, which I will brief the boys on WhatsApp after this, depending on the news, which I'll keep a secret from. But thank you for listening to the Robbos Gobcast. All our links will be in the description down below. Mine, Connor's, Mark's down below. Mine, Connor, Mark's. Ryan's is in there. Eddie's is in there, I think. I don't know.
Everyone that is who's a regular on the podcast, all their description is down below.
Yeah. So also check us out: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, and all the rest of the social media platforms. We will be seeing you next week, as I said, depending on what happens. For maybe something interesting. I'm waiting for when there's no news. So watch now.
If
Lewis
Hamilton signs a contract, the whole podcast is based on Hamilton.
You imagine that we record
that's
this
what
the
most
day
of them
before.
are anyway. That's just what the last month has been anyway, Connor. So it doesn't really change much.
That's a good point.
So we record this, if you lot don't know, the day before. Imagine if Lewis signs a contract later today. Just saying.
6
That's
PM.
just fucked up the hour that we've just done. Just saying. But yeah, right. Let's get going.
If this now comes out on Thursday, it's because Lewis signed the
you know
contract
why?
and we've re-recorded it.
Yeah, it probably will happen like that. We will re-record if it comes out on a Wednesday, then you know. If we do double upload day of F1 and NFL on a Thursday, you know why. So yeah.
And we will add this bit into the start for a
Don't make me edit.
Bit.
Don't make me edit. You're making me edit. Don't make me edit. All right, let's get going. All right, bye.
Bye.
Adios.